to a B-Roll Brothers podcast. This is ABC DVD, Two Brothers' alphabetic journey through a DVD collection that is a geographic oddity. I'm Noah.
I'm Josh.
And this is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
The Coen brothers movie, based on the Odyssey.
Yep, it is based loosely on the Odyssey.
Very, very loosely on the Odyssey.
But I think as adaptations go of ancient Greek poetry, this is probably the best.
Well, from what I read, they said that they were fans of the Odyssey to the degree that they've never actually read it. But they've
like most of us.
Yeah, like most of us. But they've seen it in another medium and they like the story trope. So if you're not very familiar with the Odyssey, don't worry. Neither were they.
Neither are most of us. We kind of glazed over in that in English class.
But, I'll point out some of the fun things because I do like Greek mythology. So.
Yes. So, it was released December 22nd, 2000, your good Christmas Day movie. Mm-hmm. Directed by Joel and Ethan Coen, who are known for The Big Lebowski, Raising Arizona, No Country for Old Men, and Fargo. Mm-hmm. It was written by the Coens and loosely based by Homer's Odyssey. Homer is also known for the Iliad, the other part of the
He's an old guy, old Greek. What can you do?
Yes, who, in Dante's Inferno got to be king of the poets.
Yes.
There's your literature.
There's some literature there.
It stars George Clooney, so Joshy gets to play. What is George Clooney known for in IMDb?
Oh, God, what would they choose for him?
It's hard because he's known, but he's not like big blockbuster.
Well,
known.
I mean, that's what it could be some of his art house things, or it could be like something like The Descendants. Is that one?
Nope.
Batman and Robin. Are they going to go weird like that?
No, but that is fun. All right, it's Michael Clayton.
Okay.
Up in the Air.
All right.
And The Ides of March.
I would not choose any of these three if someone said choose a George Clooney movie for me.
Well, IMDb.
Yeah.
Also stars John Turturro.
He is a Joel and Ethan Coen regular. He's he's in like most of their movies.
Whose biggest things are known, Barton Fink, Fading Gigolo, and The Good Shepherd.
Okay.
A lot of people probably know him in the Transformers movies.
He's in the Transformers movie. He is one of those actors that he has played like every other, different races. He's played Italian, he's played Middle Eastern, he's played Jewish. He's just that generic, we need someone who is white but not quite white enough.
Mm-hmm. And Tim Blake Nelson, who
I know he was in Minority Report.
Yes, but he is IMDb known is The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah, that is more recent.
Leaves of Grass, and he was in The Incredible Hulk.
Yes, he is. He was supposed to be a future enemy that has yet to show up.
Yes. And it made $72 million.
And I also think I read that the soundtrack of this movie made more than the movie itself.
Yes. No, the soundtrack is its own entity. I mean, there's great bluegrass in this. It kind of kicked off a bluegrass renaissance. But, in financial terms, the soundtrack made much more of a financial success than the movie. Not that
the movie just failed. It just touched a hidden, unforeknown love of bluegrass in everyone. And it's like the soundtrack is worth buying, and I bought it.
Oh yeah, it's an excellent soundtrack.
Some film history before we get started. The name of this movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, is a reference to a film within a film, in essence.
Okay.
There's a 1941 movie called The Sullivan's Travels, and that is a movie about a guy who wants to, a producer who wants to make a movie about the poor, the homeless, and stop making comedies, and he goes and lives life as a homeless man and realizes this isn't fun, and actually people need an escape. And the movie he wanted to make in Sullivan's Travels was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Okay, so that's a deep Easter egg.
It's a deep Easter egg, but it's, when I eventually saw that movie, after seeing this movie, I went, oh, that's where they got the name for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yes, so the best synopsis I have found, because there's obviously a lot written on this movie. In the Deep South during the 1930s, 3 escaped convicts search for hidden treasure while a relentless lawman pursues them.
I guess. I mean, the short.
It's the short one. I mean, there's ones that go really long where it's like it's its own epic just to get through the...
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how would you describe the Odyssey of it's just a man who wants to get home and keeps getting, lost and distracted, So
Golden Rams.
That's a different story.
I know, but I wanted to talk about it. It's a boat. It's got Greeks on them.
It's got Greeks. That's all that really matters.
It's a lot of boats with Greeks.
So we start with a quote from the Odyssey and the Iliad, and then we hear this Chain Gang song. And here's where I want to talk about a lot of the technical aspects of this film. As we open up the film in this what seems black and white, but it is super grained sepia tone, and this was purposely done to make it look old timey and make you feel in the era of the 1930s and the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression, things like that. Also, the problem was when they filmed it, apparently was very lush and green, and they said it was like a Irish nightmare of we wanted dry grass and we got verdant green, so they had to really do some post production on this film.
Was this filmed in the Deep South?
I don't know. I want to say that it was filmed on location.
I mean, it sounds like the Coens, because they do, when they did Fargo, it was obviously a lot in Minnesota, and when they did Raising Arizona, a lot of it was in Arizona.
In the area.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely certain where it was filmed, but I would have to say, just for ease and for realism, they filmed it somewhere in the South.
But yeah, no, we start out with, a jailbreak scene. You got the three main characters running through a field to get away from the Chain Gang.
Yeah, the three white guys make it.
The three white guys make it.
And the Chain Gang song that we hear is actually an old recording of an actual Chain Gang, and then we also have the actors in the scene doing diegetic additional to that song.
Okay.
So they used old recordings as much as possible.
Okay. They escape and they come across a train crossing, and they miss the train because George Clooney is clearly an egotist. He cannot help himself from talking and focusing on himself and not helping his comrades out, and they get pulled off.
Yeah.
It really sets the stage of these are the kind of archetype characters. You got George Clooney as this kind of alpha male. You've got John Turturro, who is a foil, but backs down fairly easy. And you got Tim Blake, who is kind of the lovable goof.
Yeah. George Clooney as Ulysses Everett. Ulysses is another form of the name of Odysseus. This is probably our first reference to and it's a stretch of a reference to the Odyssey, of where they nearly make it home, but then the selfishness or not keeping his crew up to date, the crew opens up a can of air that makes the boat go away. Well, in this, he doesn't let them on the train, and as we see later in the movie, this track will lead them right to where they need to go.
Exactly.
So if they had all gone on the train, they would have gone there in plenty of time.
Right. It is that classic story, like, well, if you had just
trusted your people,
you would have been done already.
Yeah.
But then they come across, a titular part of Greek mythology and poems of a blind oracle, who basically lays out the story of the movie.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is supposed to be Catherine, who was the oracle in Troy, who always told the truth and was never going to be believed because George Clooney's character doesn't believe this man.
Right.
But the other two do. But it is a blind oracle.
Well, and I think that is a theme that goes through, is like there are two who have belief in the mystic, and you have one who is very much a belief in the modern and science.
Yeah, and if you know your Odyssey, the whole reason for the journey being as long as it was the hubris of not thinking a higher power, not believing in a higher power. So the other two believing in it, but their leader not, is what's causing the delays.
Right.
And we get first utterance of a fun "damn, we're in a tight spot" when the law catches up with them.
No, we definitely get "damn, we're in a tight spot," which is uttered many times and becomes a fan favorite line.
Yeah.
You also get a lot of things like that Ulysses is very much about his appearance. He's a dapper Dan man.
He's a dapper man. He likes his elocution. He wants to put up that he's the smartest one in the room. That he's the most refined in the room, and that he's better than what he seems to be.
Right, but I do appreciate it in very Coen Brothers things is they come to like one of the cousins. He's a yokel, but they're all conversing, all very well of these kind of like
this horse is going off. You got that southern drawl, but it's charming.
But we, the tight spot is the police have caught up with him, and you get the introduction of this kind of Hades character with his Cerberus of this pale man with fire in his eyes, and a hound trying to bring the souls back to the damnation.
Back, to arrest them with his sunglasses at any time of the day.
Any time of the day. But they get away with, help from a little man with his boots tied up with books, and I have to appreciate the Woolworth catalogs and things definitely set in the time.
Yeah. And then this is a line that just I always love of when he's trying to find stuff at the general store. He's trying to find his hair pomade, Dapper Dan, or other things to fix the car. And he's just like, no, it's going to take 2 weeks to get here. It's like, wow, what a geological oddity. 2 weeks from anywhere.
And that's very much, how I felt when I first visited the Poconos with my wife. It's like, wow, we are 2 hours away from every airport. Geographic oddity.
Yep. We also get introduced to the ticking clock of this movie.
Yes.
That there's a treasure that they're trying to get to before a lake is formed and it will be washed away.
Yeah, and this is actually based on a lot of real history at the time. Definitely the Tennessee Valley Authority Act, which to kind of bolster work as a lot of dams were built, whether they were needed or not. And so some areas were purposely flooded to create these dams. And this is, pulling directly from that, saying like, well, the valley's going to be flooded, so anyone in here needs to be out by this date.
Yep.
We also, in the background, are getting some of the first songs you got. You Are My Sunshine, which represents Governor Pappy O'Donnell, which is also kind of a riff off of FDR's Fireside Chats. You hear him on the radio. There's obviously a gubernatorial race happening in the background, which is a B or a C story that's kind of threaded through this.
You don't think it's going to pay off, but it does.
It does.
The other song for the Stokes is Keep to the Sunny Side, so they were both playing with the sun element.
But then you get, I guess, one of the first chorus line of the congregation going down to the water.
Yes. If you're following along with your Odyssey, this would be the equivalent of the Lotus Eaters.
Explain the Lotus Eaters, because you said this in the thing, and I was like,
It's not one of the more important ones, but it's one of the stops. And the Lotus Eaters were a group of. It was an island that they landed on. And they would eat the lotus flower, and it would make them happy and content, and they would not want to leave, and time would just flow away. Okay. And it was something to overcome your need to enjoy yourself.
Your lot in life.
Your lot in life. It's like, no, you actually have a mission, and though the mission's harder, you need to get away from this comfortable area.
Well, that kind of ties in with this, with the two getting saved, and Ulysses kind of mocking them like, well, it doesn't change anything. We're still wanted men. You can feel it, but
the laws of gods don't interfere with the laws of Mississippi. You know, it's like you have the rational and the supernatural, and by not being saved, they're still on their journey.
But then we come across a younger story to the Odyssey. We get to the crossroads
with Tommy Johnson,
which is a quoting fingers, a true story of a blues player, Tommy Johnson, who in the mythology sold his soul to the devil to become a great blues star.
And the crossroads demon who sells, who makes deals at the crossroads. I don't know if it originated with this story or Tommy Johnson took this story and added it to his mythology, but it's like part of the Aleister Crowley, Necronomicon thing. It's all part of this supernatural dark magic of getting talent for for your soul.
Mm-hmm. And this is where he says, no, the devil is wider than you. He's not red and pitchfork. Which is like, I think ties into the story of the South and the things going on at the time.
Well, things are not nice in the South for black people.
I know.
Oh, yeah, and he describes the cop, and get the idea that they can sing their first song.
Right, and so we go to the radio station.
W-E-E-Z-Y, Wheezy.
Wheezy.
Yeah. So we get the blind owner or the producer of the radio station, Stephen, played by Stephen Root, character actor who you've seen in so many things, and also like the voice of Boomhauer?
No. He's Bill from King of the Hill.
Okay.
But no, he's in a lot of things, and he says, if you sing into a can, I'll
pay you some money.
And so you get the first Soggy Bottom Boys song, which George Clooney is the only one not singing in this scene.
Yeah, now I saw in the making of that he did train for weeks trying to get his voice, but sometimes you just can't get there to get that song. So
it's not the worst. I mean, it obviously you can tell it's not George Clooney because the pitch is so much off. But the other two actors are bluegrass singers in their off time, so they were able to kind of add to the cacophony.
Yeah, I think it was George Clooney was dubbed by a man named Dan Tyminski, but the others are singing, and it is a catchy tune.
It is a catchy tune, and as the story goes on, this becomes like a platinum sensation throughout Mississippi.
Yeah.
But they run into Governor Pappy O'Donnell, who is Governor Menelaus.
The king. If you know your Iliad, because he's more as Menelaus and Agamemnon are the two brothers that caused the entire Trojan War. The opposites of Hector and Paris.
But you're getting the first hints that the governor's race is not going in his way.
No.
And they're starting to feel the pinch.
Yes.
We get the kind of, I guess, your titular, what are you going to do with your share of the treasure talk. Pete says he wants to be a maitre d' because he thinks that's fancy and he gets to greet the guests and get free food, and that's living.
Yeah, and Tim Blake, Delmar wants just to buy back his family's farm and prevent anyone from taking that.
Yep, and and they kind of picked up on this. George or Ulysses did not have a plan, and they're like, well, that's not you to not have a plan.
You always have a plan.
And I think you get that first inkling like something's not right here.
Yep. Then we continue on their journey, and we run into another real life character of Babyface Nelson.
George Nelson.
Yeah.
And this is George Nelson was a bank robber who was with the John Dillinger gang, and was kind of a folk hero antagonist because he was very
Bonnie and Clyde-esque.
Yeah, you're robbing from the banks at the time, and you're just doing your thing.
And when the banks are foreclosing on your farm, you don't really love the banks.
No, and it is fun that they don't come out on time, but George is obviously bipolar. He's got a high of like, don't call me babyface, and then after the job is done, he gets very depressed.
And during their initial meeting, there's a scene where he shoots the cows.
Yes, not the livestock, George.
And I only bring this up because it is apparently one of those impressive moments that the American Humane Society, that usually at the end of the credits say no animals were harmed during this film, were so convinced that they harmed animals, we're not going to give them that tag until they walked them through the digital production of saying these aren't real cows.
Yeah.
There weren't even really cows there.
Yeah.
So that they added a different tag of no animals harmed, though digital and realistic. It's all fine.
It's all fine.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting that when they are kind of parting ways with George Nelson, is that in the background there are ancient columns that they're sitting on. And I was like, well, that is an odd thing to be out there in the middle of Mississippi, but I'll go with it.
And then we get a montage of now that they have money, they're still living off the land, stealing things, but they're leaving. Delmar, Tim Blake's character, is leaving money.
Yeah, as they're stealing.
And there's a nice little moment of they've stolen some pie, and Ulysses has wiped his mouth. And on that newspaper clipping, you see an article saying that the valley is actually going to be flooded, and also an article saying, hey, who are these Soggy Bottom Boys?
Yeah, you definitely get the, if it was anything like, the rise of success, there should be a record playing in the background as they go platinum.
Yeah.
But I like this next scene because it is, I think, something that is more mainstream from Homer's is the sirens.
Basically, this is the part of the movie that says, if you don't realize we're doing an adaptation of the Odyssey, this will let you know we're doing an adaptation.
Exactly. So they come across 3 women singing in the river,
washing their clothes,
and the sirens from Homer would, drive you mad with their songs and crash you upon the rocks.
Yeah, they it's that it's the misnomer that they would sing you and you would drown, but they would actually just tempt you with prophecies. They would tell you your future, but that then got adapted to just saying that their songs would drive you mad.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm all about the rewrite.
Well, like as I said, they didn't actually know, so they were going off of the movies and the books where it is a song instead of just telling you what, tempting you with saying, we're going to tell you what your future is.
Right.
Yeah, and tell you what the future of the world will be.
And Ulysses and Everett wake up and they think that Pete has turned into a frog.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a deeper hitting meaning of just the frog. I mean, it is a funny thing because they get to do the joke of, well, he's a horny toad.
I don't know, because we know they're literally sirens because they said these are sirens later on. Mm-hmm. But this could also be a reference to Circe. Okay. Another stop along the Odyssey, and Circe was a witch who turned part of his crew into animals. It was pigs, not a horny toad.
Well, so this pigs and horny toads,
but they a horny toad making the joke that they were horny men or pigs, and they would be piggish men. So this could be a doubling up.
That could be. Oh, I like that one.
Yeah,
I like that one. Another on the nose thing, but done so well, is John Goodman as the Cyclops.
Yeah, Big Dan. Polyphemus for the Odyssey.
He is a Bible salesman who is in the art of making money, and he is a con artist that would give George Clooney a run for his money.
Yeah, and takes his money.
And
in the story they do subdue the Cyclops with food and ale, but in this case the food and ale subdues them. Yeah. So it's a nice twist on it.
Well, and I always am amazed in rewatching it is that when John Goodman is beating the crap out of his friend, that George is just very much like out. He's like, what are you doing, Big Dan?
It's like you're telling me that this is a demonstration, so I don't want to interrupt you. I'm going to be polite and see you beat up on Delmar, and I'll figure it out later. A reference to possibly another Coen Brothers movie, or they just love this dish, is the fricassee that they order, which is a fried meat or boiled meat in a white cream sauce.
Okay.
But that is also mentioned prominently in Fargo, so I don't know if that's a Fargo reference or they just like the name fricassee.
Maybe that was something they grew up with.
Yeah.
The Coen Brothers love a good fricassee. Yeah. I'm going to say, back in Hades, Pete is getting the whipping out of him of trying to track down his comrades, and Hades is all too keen to get some information out of him. Yeah. It's just a little scene, but I think it goes back to it's always dark and lightning and scary.
Well, and I like that they waited until this moment to show him captured, because we know that he wasn't turned into a horny toad in the story of this 1930s thing. But we don't show him in Hades until the horny toad is killed.
That's true.
And so it's that fun thing of, was he turned into a horny toad? And then his soul is sent down to Hades.
I mean, in the big, deeper
hidden meeting, that's a fun moment of, we don't show this interrogation until the toad is killed. And I quite enjoyed that.
Moving on, Ulysses and Delmar into a town where there's some little Warby gals singing, and we get to see kind of George's true purpose here is that he has a family.
He's trying to get home, and very much like the Odyssey, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep beating on that drum of, he has to deal with suitors trying to get his wife.
Right. And that's the joke here is all the girls saying, he's a suitor.
Yep.
And he's trying to say, no, I'm the paterfamilias. I am the head of the family.
Yeah. I mean, he's been gone for so long, in the Odyssey it was 20 years, and here it was like less than a year.
I think it was like...
Because it's got to be within 9 months, because there's another baby.
Little girl.
And we do see his confrontation with Holly Hunter's character, Penny, his wife. And she's saying, you left. You were arrested. I needed, all this. You're not part of the family. It's better that they think you're dead than you're here. Mm-hmm. And another, I feel, reference to a Coen Brothers film of Holly Hunter having 7 kids.
7 daughters.
might be a reference to the fact that in Raising Arizona, she couldn't have kids at all.
And doesn't she have 7 daughters in real life, or am I making that up?
I don't know. I tend not to follow the real life goings-ons of shenanigans. I want to give them some privacy. This could also be another mythological reference to the Pleiades, the 7 daughters of a Titan, but I don't know why that would be in the Odyssey.
Well, because they clearly are getting that deep.
Yeah,
they read it.
Yeah, they read it. So
they hunker down for a movie, and they see that Pete is doing just fine, but he gives them a warning of "Do not seek the treasure."
And I love John Turturro's face when Tim Blake says, "We thought you got turned into a toad." And it's like, I am trying to warn you. What the hell are you talking about?
Just the sheer confusion of what?
Don't seek the treasure. We thought you were a toad. Okay.
Give you the warning, but also like they're not going to belabor the point. Is like they bust Pete out pretty quickly, but you find out that there is no treasure.
Yeah.
George was lying because he wanted to get back to his family, and you get kind of that heartbreak of like, I was going to get released in 2 weeks, and if they catch me, I'm not getting out until the 80s.
Yeah, until I'm 80s. And it's like, I was chained to you, I needed you to here, and I needed you on this journey, and it's his bullheadedness, his refusal to humble himself that they keep getting into trouble. And then we continue this, because this is the journey into Hades to save a crew member. We get the representation of Tartarus and Hades of, I think, a perfect representation of American terribleness of a Klan rally.
Yeah, no, it is a terrifying scene, and I think the song they choose for the the Grand Wizard to sing is haunting to the point that it's like it just to like have the marching and the darkness, and just like it is this bone chilling moment, and they have Tommy, and it's like you just like nothing is good in this scene.
Yeah, and it's reminiscent of the guards from Wizard of Oz, their chant before we get to the Grand Wizard's song, and this is I think a military marching band or a young military marching band, so. There's actual black people under the hoods, and I heard it from the behind the scenes that someone's like, "This is the freakiest stuff." They didn't say stuff that they've ever done, and they, it's like we're here to do it because it's mocking the Klan, but it's like it's still terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, the Coen brothers definitely set up a very scary moment that is turned around real quickly with the saving of Tommy. They throw the Confederate flag. John.
So the Cyclops, Big Dan is there, and recognizes him by smell. Another thing that happened from the Odyssey, and they use the Confederate flag and then the flaming cross to kill him, referencing the flaming stick or the flaming spear that they punched through his eye.
No, I mean, we've said before, they're doing a really good job reimagining all the the greatest hits of the Odyssey. But they move on to a political rally. And
for Homer Stokes. Wonder how he got his name.
The foil to Governor Pappy is Homer Stokes with his little minion, and he's talking about reform.
And he was the Grand Wizard at the Klan rally.
And he was.
So we know not to like him.
Exactly. He's not but I mean, it is fun to see they come out in disguise in the kind of these ZZ Top beards, and they sing their song, and the crowd gets elated, and the tables are turned rather quickly for everyone.
Well, again, I love George Clooney's face of, what is going on? Why are we getting this, reception?
Well, and I think he's enough of a man in the know to know when favor is it the governor comes up and is basically saying like, I'm going to endorse these boys. I'm it's like, as long as you play ball. And he goes, oh yeah, I'll play ball. We're all good here, Pappy.
And it's like, you're going to be my brain trust. You're going to be the power behind the throne. And Odysseus was the brains of the Iliad. Agamemnon and Menelaus relied on him heavily for strategy.
Yep.
Homer defying this fame gets run out on a rail.
Yes.
This is an actual thing that happened. Usually, I know in the 1800s, I guess it could have gone up to the 1930s, of a form of public shaming in the United States.
Okay.
Where they would like lift you up, and you might be pelted by tomatoes and things. It was like less than tar and feathering, but worse than just a slap on the wrist.
Okay,
yeah.
so this was an actual
this was
Americana shaming.
Yes.
All right. We also get in the background when they come out from this rally is George Nelson has been captured. Mm-hmm. He's very elated to be taken to the gallows, as it were. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm gonna ride the lightning. Yep. I mean, it is an odd choice. I mean, I guess they want to close all lines, and you get to like, well, he got what he wanted. He's going to go down in infamy. Yeah. As George Nelson.
Yep. So Holly Hunter and George Clooney do reconcile, but she says, for this to work, we need the ring. Mm-hmm. Now, I feel like this is reference to two things. One, that she needs to see that he's legitimate and committed to the relationship. Mm-hmm. But in the Odyssey, Odysseus had to prove that he was who he was by doing a feat that only he could do, which was to shoot an arrow through 10 or 12 rings of axes. They would line up 12 axes, and he was the only one who could shoot accurately enough to get through the 12 rings. All right. There's also another thing later on where they find the ring. It's a feat to find the ring at the bottom of the lake. That's a Theseus reference. So I think they just know a whole bunch of Greek mythology, and they just want to throw it in there and stuff it in there.
Well, see, apparently you know a lot of Greek mythology.
I love Greek mythology.
So this was all just made for you and all the other Greekies out there,
Greek nerds out there. I mean, I got a kick out of every reference.
Okay, but they have to go to the valley that's going to be flooded, and when they get there, because you should have not sought the treasure. Yeah. Who is waiting there but, the lawman of Hades, sheriff, who, if you don't think he's mythical at all, he basically says the law is a human institution. Yeah. It's like, he goes, I didn't hear anything, and I am above the law. Yeah. Which could be, a political statement on, the Jim Crow South of saying, the laws do not apply to all.
Lynch mobs weren't legal, but they happened.
Exactly. Or is this, the actual Hades saying, listen, I've got a job to do.
Yeah, and he was the one who always did his job. He did not like getting his souls taken from him. He worked. I tend to like the adaptations of myth where he's not the bad guy. But when he's like, no, he does his job. But this is the moment where George Clooney finally has to humble himself. Yes. Finally has to get on his knees and say, I was wrong. Mm-hmm. I've done too much, but don't punish my crew. Don't punish Tommy. Don't.
And it's like, I just want to see my girls.
Want to see my
I want to go home.
And then because it's been talked about this whole time, the valley gets flooded, and he finally gets baptized. He gets encased in water. He has supplicated himself to a higher power, and thus will now get to be freed.
Yeah, and all the things come. All the various items are floating through the water. Mm-hmm. I do have to wonder because they are saved by a coffin. It just reminds me of the end of Moby Dick.
Queequeg coffin.
Queequeg's coffin. Yeah. is just that symbol as like you are being saved by. A symbol of death.
Yeah, death. So they're reborn and they're saved by a symbol of death. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the adventure ends. Yeah. He gets to go home. He's got all his girls on a rope. Yep. They are walking across the train track where we see the blind oracle singing the song, and very much a book and thing is we drain back to sepia.
Yeah. All the color comes out, and it's like, and the story is done.
The story is done.
And I love this movie. On my first watching, I don't think I caught a lot of the Odyssey thing because I tend not to focus too much on the credits when there's pictures on the screen, and I just enjoyed the story, and then on deeper hidden meaning viewings on my rewatches, I just fell in love even more so.
No, it is really well done, from start to finish. The music, the dialogue, the scenery, and also those deeper... I was sitting before talking to you, it's like, I have a hard time saying if it's this one or the Big Lebowski of the Coen brothers. I'm like, ooh, these are both excellent,
Yeah.
but which one? And it's like they both offer a different story, but it's like this one is fun to rewatch and get different things.
Yeah, everyone has like their go-to. This is my favorite Coen Brothers, and if this is yours, I would not blame you at all. This is phenomenal.
And I think this has something for everyone. It's a little more heady, but I think it's not so cerebral that you're not going to get enjoyment out of it.
And it moves at a clip because each of these scenes that we talked about is very quick and moves on because it's like, no, we got a lot of story to tell and we got to get to that valley.
And yeah, story is good. But story is not everything.
Why?
Because sometimes story can be light, but the action can be good. And you can get a great movie. It's our next movie, and that is Pacific Rim. Another story with water.
Yeah. There's water involved.
There's waters. Yeah. There's giant robots and monsters. Baptism. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But
I don't think I'll be diving into the deeper hidden meaning of that movie as much as I did in this one.
There's not as deeper hidden meanings, but there is a lot of deep fun to be had.
Exactly.
So next time will be Pacific Rim, Guillermo del Toro's monster
robot film.
I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you've got a chance to watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Join us next time.
Bye.
Bye.
He's a character actor that we've seen all... Not here. How is he not here? How is Man with Bullhorn above this guy?
Well, Man with Bullhorn is very important.